The unexpected arrival. The morning shift on Deep Space Station Alpha 7 began like any other. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the command center, watching the stars through the massive viewport while her crew conducted their daily routines. The station floated peacefully in the outer rim of human territory, serving as both a research facility and early warning post for any unusual activity in the sector. Dr. Marcus Webb was reviewing his latest experiments in the science lab when the first alert came through. The tall, gray-haired scientist had spent most of his career studying alien artifacts and theoretical xenobiology, though actual contact with living aliens remained humanity's greatest dream and fear. Lieutenant Jake Morrison was conducting security drills in the lower decks. The young officer took his duties seriously, knowing that their remote location made them vulnerable to pirates, though alien threats were considered purely theoretical. His team was well trained, but had never faced anything more dangerous than smugglers. Engineer Rosa Martinez was deep in the station's mechanical systems, performing routine maintenance on the fusion reactors. She had a gift for understanding complex machinery and often found creative solutions to technical problems that baffled her colleagues. The peaceful routine shattered when Ensign Kelly of the sensor station called out urgently, "Captain Chen, I'm detecting an unknown vessel approaching our position. It's not responding to our hails and has no identification transponder." Sarah moved quickly to the main console, her dark eyes focusing on the display. The ship appeared as a blip on their long-range sensors, moving steadily toward their location. "How long until it reaches us?" "At current speed, approximately 40 minutes, Captain." "Any indication of its origin or class?" Kelly shook her head, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Negative, Captain. The configuration doesn't match any known human vessel. It's different." Dr. Webb hurried onto the bridge, having heard the commotion over the ship's communication system. His scientific curiosity was immediately aroused. "Captain, might I suggest we go to yellow alert and begin detailed scans? This could be our first encounter with non-human intelligence." Lieutenant Morrison arrived moments later, his security team ready for action. "Captain, recommend we go to red alert immediately. An unidentified vessel approaching without authorization could be hostile." Sarah weighed both perspectives carefully. Her training taught her to be cautious, but her instincts suggested this might be more than a simple threat. "Yellow alert for now. I want detailed scans of that vessel. Kelly, try all frequencies and languages in our database. Someone might be in distress." The next 30 minutes passed with growing tension. The unknown ship continued its approach, and detailed scans revealed surprising information. The vessel was definitely not of human origin. Its hull was composed of materials that didn't match any known alloys, and its energy signature was unlike anything in their databases. "Captain," Kelly reported, "I'm detecting multiple life signs aboard the vessel. At least 20 individuals, possibly more. Their biological readings are unusual." Dr. Webb leaned forward with excitement. "Unusual how?" "Their metabolic rates are different from humans. Slower heartbeat, different respiratory patterns. Captain, I think we're looking at genuine alien life forms." The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. First contact with alien intelligence had been humanity's dream for centuries, but it was happening here, now, at a remote research station with minimal defensive capabilities. "Any signs of weapons?" Morrison asked, his hand resting on his sidearm. "I can't detect conventional weapons, but there are energy patterns I don't recognize. The ship appears to be damaged, though. Hull breaches on multiple decks, power fluctuations throughout their systems." Captain Chen made her decision. "Continue trying to establish communication. Dr. Webb, I want you to prepare first contact protocols. Morrison, have your security teams ready but keep weapons lowered. Rosa, make sure our defensive systems are operational but not obviously targeting them." Rosa's voice came through the comm system from engineering. "Captain, I'm detecting some very strange energy readings from that ship. Their power systems are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's almost like they're using controlled antimatter reactions. The alien vessel suddenly slowed as it approached the station's defensive perimeter. For several minutes, it simply held position, neither advancing nor retreating. Then, without warning, every communication system on the station activated simultaneously. The voice that emerged was clearly artificial, speaking in heavily accented but understandable English. Human station. We request. Assistance. We bring. Warning of great danger. Dr. Webb's eyes widened with amazement. They've learned our language. The linguistic analysis alone represents incredible intelligence. Captain Chen stepped forward. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of Deep Space Station Alpha 7. Identify yourselves and state your intentions. We are refugees. Our designation is difficult to translate. We flee from those who destroy worlds. We seek sanctuary and must warn you of approaching doom. Morrison tensed. Captain, this could be a trap. Unknown aliens claiming to bring warnings. It's too convenient. But Dr. Webb was fascinated. Captain, consider the implications. If they truly are refugees, they might have vital information about threats to human space. Sarah made her choice. Unknown vessel, you are authorized to dock at Bay 7. However, you will submit to security scans and limit your party to no more than 5 individuals. Any hostile action will result in immediate defensive measures. We understand. We comply with your requirements. We thank you for your mercy. As the alien ship maneuvered toward the docking bay, Rosa reported from engineering. Captain, their ship is in worse condition than we thought. They're running on emergency power, and I can see multiple hull breaches. Whatever they're running from, it gave them a serious beating. The docking process took longer than usual, as the alien ship's configuration required manual guidance. When the airlock finally sealed, atmospheric readings showed the aliens breathed a similar oxygen-nitrogen mixture, though with slightly different concentrations. Captain Chen, Dr. Webb, Lieutenant Morrison, and 2 security officers assembled in the docking bay. They wore environmental suits as a precaution, though initial scans suggested the atmosphere would be breathable. The airlock hissed open, and humanity's first alien visitors stepped through. They were tall, approximately 7 feet in height, with elongated limbs and graceful movements. Their skin had a pale blue tint with intricate patterns that seemed to shift slightly in the light. Their faces were humanoid, but with larger eyes that reflected intelligence and what appeared to be deep exhaustion. The lead alien stepped forward and spoke in that same artificial voice they'd heard earlier. Sarah realized that they were using translation devices. I am. The closest translation would be, Navigator Zethkar. These are my companions, Healer Yulthora, Warrior Kesran, and Tech Shaper Mordun. Dr. Webb was practically vibrating with excitement, but he maintained professional composure. Welcome to our station. We are honored to meet you. Navigator Zethkar's large eyes focused on Captain Chen. Captain Chen, we bring grave news. A force of destroyers follows us across the galaxy. They consume worlds, leaving nothing but empty space. They have already destroyed our homeworld and 17 other systems. Now they move toward this region of space. Morrison stepped forward suspiciously. How do we know you're telling the truth? How do we know you're not the threat? The alien called Warrior Kesran made a sound that might have been laughter, though it was impossible to be certain. If we were the destroyers, young warrior, your station would already be debris floating in space. Tech Shaper Mordun activated a device that projected a 3-dimensional star map. It showed a path of destruction across several star systems, with each consumed world marked in red. The path led directly toward human space. The Devourers, as we call them, are not biological. They are artificial intelligences that convert matter into more of themselves. They see organic life as inefficient and seek to eliminate it entirely. Dr. Webb studied the projected map with growing alarm. How long do we have? Based on their previous pattern of movement, no more than 72 of your hours before they reach your outer colonies. Captain Chen felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The safety of billions of human lives might depend on the decisions made in the next few days. What do you propose we do? Navigator Zethkar looked at each human in turn. In our flight across the galaxy, we have learned something important. The devourers can be stopped, but it requires something they do not expect. They have consumed hundreds of worlds, but they have always faced civilizations that fought predictably. What do you mean? Morrison asked. Healer Ylthera spoke for the first time, her voice carrying surprising warmth. We have observed humans through your transmissions that travel through space. Your species shows remarkable adaptability and creativity. You find solutions that others consider impossible. You're asking us to help you fight these devourers, Captain Chen said. Not just help, Tech Shaper Mordun replied. Lead. Your species has something ours lacks. We follow patterns, traditions, established methods. But humans innovate constantly. They find new ways to solve old problems. Dr. Webb was already thinking ahead. What resources do you have? What can you tell us about their technology? We have detailed scans of their ships and weapons. We understand their tactical patterns. But most importantly, we have something they have never encountered before. Which is? Navigator Zethkar made a gesture that might have been a smile. An alliance between species that thinks differently. The devourers expect resistance, but they expect it to follow logical, predictable patterns. Humans do not think like other species. Captain Chen made her decision. Dr. Webb, contact Fleet Command immediately. Morrison, prepare our defensive systems and send messages to all nearby human installations. Rosa, I need you to work with their Tech Shaper to understand their technology. She turned to the aliens. We'll help you, but understand this. Humans don't abandon our allies. If we fight these devourers together, we fight to win. Navigator Zethkar bowed deeply. This is why we sought you out, Captain Chen. This is why humanity may be the key to stopping the devourers once and for all. As activity erupted throughout the station, with humans and aliens working together for the first time in history, none of them realized that the devourers had already detected their location and were accelerating their approach. Humanity's first test as a galactic species was about to begin. Alliance against the storm. The next 18 hours transformed Deep Space Station Alpha 7 from a quiet research outpost into a bustling center of desperate preparation. Captain Chen stood in the main conference room, surrounded by holographic displays showing star charts, ship positions, and technical specifications that would have seemed like science fiction just days earlier. Dr. Webb worked alongside Healer Ylthera and Tech Shaper Mordun, trying to understand alien technology that operated on principles human science was only beginning to grasp. The language barrier had largely disappeared thanks to the aliens' sophisticated translation systems, but the conceptual barriers were enormous. Their weapons operate on what we might call reality distortion, Dr. Webb explained to Captain Chen during a brief break. They don't just destroy matter. They convince it to stop existing. Our conventional shields and armor are useless against that kind of attack. Lieutenant Morrison had been coordinating with the aliens' military specialist, Warrior Kesran, and his report was equally sobering. Captain, according to Kesran, the Devourer's standard tactic is to surround a system with hundreds of ships and methodically dismantle everything. They don't negotiate, they don't take prisoners, and they don't leave anything behind. Rosa Martinez emerged from the engineering section, her uniform stained with oil and her hair disheveled from crawling through maintenance tunnels. Captain, I've been working with Mordun on their propulsion systems. I think I understand something important. She activated a display showing the alien ship's engine configuration. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly rigid. Everything follows precise mathematical formulas and established procedures. There's no room for improvisation or creative adaptation. Navigator Zethkar, who had been listening quietly, nodded his agreement. This is correct. Our civilization valued perfection and predictability. Every action was planned, every response calculated. It made us powerful, but also vulnerable to an enemy that could predict our behavior. Captain Chen studied the information flowing across her screens. Reports from Fleet Command indicated that the nearest battle group was still 36 hours away, too far to help if the Devourers arrived on schedule. Several civilian ships had volunteered to help evacuate nearby colonies, but there wasn't enough time to save everyone. "What if we don't fight them the way they expect?" she said suddenly. Dr. Webb looked up from his technical analysis. "What do you mean? You said their strength is predictability, right? They've conquered hundreds of worlds because they can calculate exactly how each species will respond. But what if we don't respond the way they expect?" Warrior Kesran made an interested sound. "Explain this strategy." Morrison was already following her reasoning. Hit-and-run tactics, asymmetric warfare. Make them react to us instead of following their established patterns. Rosa's eyes lit up with understanding, and combine their technology with human engineering. "Captain, what if we could modify their systems to work in ways they never intended?" Tech Shaper Mordun seemed puzzled, but that would violate the fundamental principles of their design. The risk of system failure would be enormous. "Sometimes taking risks is the only way to win," Captain Chen replied. "How much time do we have before they arrive?" Navigator Zethkar consulted his instruments. 47 hours, based on their current trajectory. "But Captain, there is something else you must know. Our escape was not as clean as we hoped. The Devourers have been following our ion trail. They know exactly where we are." The conference room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Devourers weren't just heading toward human space. They were coming directly to Alpha 7. "How many ships?" Morrison asked grimly. "Our sensors detected at least 50 vessels before we entered hyperspace, possibly more." Dr. Webb ran calculations on his tablet. 50 Devourer ships against one research station and whatever civilian vessels we can muster. The odds don't matter," Captain Chen interrupted. "We're not just fighting for this station. We're fighting for the future of both our species. Rosa, I need you to start modifying our systems with alien technology. Morrison, coordinate with Kesran on defensive strategies that they won't expect. Dr. Webb, work with their scientists to find any weakness we can exploit." Over the next day, the station became a hive of unprecedented activity. Human engineers worked alongside alien tech shapers to create hybrid weapons that combined the best of both technologies. The aliens were initially horrified by the humans' willingness to jury-rig complex systems and ignore safety protocols, but they began to see the effectiveness of human improvisation. Rosa Martinez proved to be particularly gifted at understanding alien technology. She worked closely with Mordun to create what she called chaos modifications, alterations to both human and alien systems that would make their behavior unpredictable and difficult to counter. "The Devourer's computers will try to calculate our capabilities based on standard configurations," she explained to the mixed human-alien engineering team. "But if we modify everything to work in unexpected ways, their predictions will be wrong." Dr. Webb made a breakthrough when he realized that the aliens' healing technology could be weaponized. Working with healer Yilthura, he developed what they termed regenerative minds, devices that would repair themselves after detonation and continue to threaten enemy ships. Lieutenant Morrison and Warrior Kesran created a new tactical doctrine that combined human flexibility with alien precision. Instead of trying to match the Devourers ship for ship, they would use the station itself as a massive weapon, turning its research equipment into improvised but devastating armaments. Navigator Zethkar spent his time coordinating with the civilian vessels that had answered Captain Chen's distress call. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, and mining ships were being converted into makeshift warships using techniques that violated every principle of proper engineering, but just might work. As the deadline approached, an unlikely camaraderie developed between the humans and aliens. Despite their differences, both species shared a determination to survive and protect those they cared about. The aliens were amazed by human creativity and willingness to take risks, while the humans gained deep respect for alien knowledge and dedication. Captain, Navigator Zethkar said as they entered the final hours before contact, "I must tell you something. When we fled our homeworld, many of our people believed we were cowards for running instead of fighting to the end. But now I understand we were meant to find you. Our survival was not about preserving ourselves, but about bringing together two species that could accomplish what neither could do alone." Captain Chen looked around the command center, where humans and aliens worked side by side, as if they had been doing so for years. Maybe that's what the galaxy needs. Not just one species trying to survive alone, but all of us working together. The first Devourer ships appeared on long-range sensors exactly when predicted. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their dark hulls absorbing light like holes in space itself. Scans revealed their technology was even more advanced than the refugees had indicated. 53 vessels confirmed, reported Ensign Kelly. They're moving into standard attack formation. All stations, this is Captain Chen. Today we make history. Today we show the galaxy that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the odds. All vessels, implement planned chaos on my mark. The Devourers expected to face conventional resistance. They had calculated the exact capabilities of the research station and the civilian ships that had joined the defense. Their artificial intelligences had run thousands of simulations, and every scenario ended with their victory. But they had never faced an enemy that deliberately ignored logic and safety protocols in favor of creative solutions. The first surprise came when the research station itself opened fire with weapons that shouldn't have existed. Rosa's modifications had turned the main sensor array into a focused energy beam that cut through Devourer shields like they weren't there. Mining vessels launched clouds of self-replicating nanobots that began converting Devourer hull materials into more nanobots. The aliens' regenerative technology meant that destroyed weapons rematerialized and continued fighting. Human hit-and-run tactics kept the Devourers from establishing the methodical attack pattern they preferred. But the real shock came when the Devourers tried to adapt their tactics and found that human-alien cooperation was creating solutions faster than their computers could calculate responses. "Their formation is breaking apart," Morrison reported with amazement. "They don't know how to handle unpredictable opponents." The battle raged for 6 hours, with both sides taking heavy casualties. But gradually, the Devourers' advantage in numbers was offset by the Defenders' advantage in creativity. Every time the artificial intelligences thought they had calculated an effective response, the human-alien alliance found a new approach they hadn't considered. The turning point came when Dr. Webb and healer Ylthera managed to hack into the Devourers' communication system using a combination of human-computer viruses and alien biotechnology. Instead of trying to destroy their network, they introduced chaos into their coordination protocols. Suddenly, Devourer ships began attacking each other, their targeting systems confused by false data that looked completely legitimate to their artificial minds. "All ships, concentrate fire on their command vessel," Captain Chen ordered. "If we can take out their central intelligence, the rest of their fleet should lose coordination entirely." The combined firepower of the unlikely alliance focused on the largest Devourer ship. Its shields held for several minutes, but the sustained barrage of hybrid weapons finally broke through. The command vessel exploded in a brilliant flash, and immediately the remaining Devourer ships began to scatter. "They're retreating," Kelly announced, her voice filled with disbelief. Navigator Zethkar stared at the tactical display with something approaching awe. "In all our history, no one has ever made the Devourers retreat. They have always fought until destroyed or victorious." Captain Chen slumped in her command chair, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "How many did we lose?" The casualty reports were sobering but not catastrophic. They had lost several civilian vessels and suffered damage to the station, but the majority of both human and alien personnel had survived. "Captain," Dr. Webb called from the science station, "I'm receiving communications from across the sector. Other species have been monitoring our battle. Word is spreading that the Devourers can be defeated. Over the following days, Deep Space Station Alpha 7 became the center of a new kind of galactic community. Representatives from dozens of species arrived to learn about the human-alien alliance that had achieved the impossible. Captain Chen found herself promoted to ambassador, tasked with building the relationships that would transform the galaxy from a collection of isolated civilizations into a true community of cooperation. Navigator Zethkar became the first alien to serve as an official advisor to the human government, helping to establish protocols for interspecies cooperation that would prevent future tragedies. Dr. Webb and his alien colleagues founded the Galactic Institute for Cooperative Science, dedicated to combining different species' knowledge to solve problems no single civilization could handle alone. Rosa Martinez became the head of a new engineering corps that specialized in creative solutions and adaptive technology, teaching both humans and aliens that sometimes the best answer comes from thinking outside established patterns. Lieutenant Morrison established the first integrated human-alien security force, proving that different species could work together not just in friendship, but in the face of danger. But perhaps most importantly, the victory at Alpha 7 changed how the galaxy thought about conflict and cooperation. The age of isolated civilizations was ending, replaced by an era where diversity of thought and approach was seen as strength rather than weakness. The Devourers were not destroyed entirely, but they learned to avoid regions where species worked together creatively. Their rigid artificial intelligences simply could not handle the unpredictability that emerged when different kinds of minds collaborated. Years later, when historians wrote about the turning point that saved galactic civilization, they would trace it back to a single moment of decision in a remote research station, when a human captain chose to trust alien refugees and discovered that the greatest strength of any species lies not in what makes them superior, but in what makes them different when working together. The stars were no longer quiet, but they were no longer filled with fear. Instead, they hummed with the voices of 100 different species, all working together to build something greater than any of them could create alone.